Hi everybody, hope everybody's well, keeping safe and looking after themselves. I thought I'd have a little chat about my journey through therapy and counselling and stuff and things. If there's anybody out there that's being referred for counselling or CBT or CAT, maybe I could just share my experience a little bit, not in depth. And the positive. I mean, I had nothing but positive a positive experience from therapy anyway. So I thought I'd just maybe do a quick video or a video. I don't know how long it's going to last to share that experience. The first thing I would like to say first is anybody that's subscribed and anybody people who have left comments on other videos, it's really much appreciated, and I enjoy answering the comments. So yeah, please subscribe and help me grow a channel, as they say, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it properly, but maybe you could leave comments in the leave a comment and ask me something to talk about that's maybe relevant to yourself, or it's a subject that that you'd like me to talk about. But yeah, so yeah, I thought I'd just, like I say, do a video of my experience of counselling and psychotherapy. The first thing I'd mention though is I've just spent 2 years at university studying counselling and psychotherapy, and gained a higher education diploma in counselling and psychotherapy studies with a merit too, so did quite well at that. I've got the option to top it up as a full honours degree at some point maybe, but no, I mean my first journey into therapy was way back when I was 22, and I'm 50 now, but can't really remember too much about that, so there's no point really talking about that too much. But when I was 39-year-old, I gave up alcohol and went into detox, and back in 2007, and thankfully remained sober ever since. But once I'd left the detox unit in rehab and was in the aftercare service, I started then having therapy, person-centered counselling first. Now what that does, person-centered counselling, that allows you to allows you into a safe place where you're never going to be judged. What's staying there is confidential, apart from harm to others or yourself. That's all explained to you by your counsellor. And there's you have a contract that's drawn up, and they explain everything that's going to happen, and what maybe you, if therapy is right for you. But my journey with, what I thought of counselling was, I thought it was really good. I've had 2 lots of counselling, and both times I've benefited from it. It's a safe place where you can go and talk to someone who is going to be listening to you, and they do. Then counsellors are very specialised. They do that in a way. They're trained, highly trained, and they do that in a way by showing you empathy, and they help. The thing is, with person-centered counselling, you choose what you want to talk about, and they help you along with it, but they don't tell you, they don't tell you what to do. It's basically whatever you feel comfortable talking about. And it's, I used to think it was a great place to go once a week for an hour, where I could tell, whatever it was, I mean, obviously a lot of mine was down to trauma and things, past trauma and whatnot, but I found it a really comfortable place to be. the counsellor made me comfortable, and I think it's important that you are comfortable with your counsellor. And it was a great place to offload, and the counsellor, whether it's he or a male or a female, they're highly trained in the skill of listening and active listening, and they're switched on to you for the full hour, and it's a great. I found it was a brilliant place to go and offload. You get an hour, there's an hour. You can talk about whatever it is you need to talk about. They will definitely listen to you. The counsellor's definitely engaged with yourself. That you can be sure of that. And there's no pressure. There's no any. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I think it's quite important. That you get on with your counsellor, that you're comfortable with the counsellor, and you're ready for therapy. That's another thing, is to make sure you are ready for therapy. If it's anybody coming out of addiction, therapy can be a traumatic time also. So you need to make sure you're strong enough to sorry, I got distracted then actually with my phone. You've got to make sure you're strong enough to cope with whatever cans of worms you may be opening. But going back to the therapist, I found it was a great place, and you've got somebody that will listen to you. They show empathy. Yeah, they actively listen to you, and in my case, and maybe other people's, it's probably the only time I've been listened to. But the thing is, with therapy and counselling, you do need to be ready for it, and maybe it doesn't work every time. The first time, maybe you need to do it again a second time at a later date. But for me, I personally think it's worth at least giving it, or approaching therapy with an open mind, and at least giving it a go. Therapy, counselling is not for everybody. It isn't. But for me, it certainly, has been of help. And if ever I need counselling again in the future, hopefully I don't, I would be quite happy to go and, seek, a counsellor. It's certainly, if I was to, counselling, you've got to understand with counselling as well. Also, you're more than likely going to be unearthing, things that's maybe traumatic. It normally is. So you've got to be prepared for, it's a difficult journey, but it's a journey worthwhile. So you've got to be prepared to put the work in. Fully engage with your counsellor once you've built up your trust and rapport, and the counsellor will guide you through, but by the way of listening and showing empathy, through whatever it is you need to talk about. And by doing that, it allows you then to make some kind of sense of whatever it may be that that you've brought to the session. But like I said, with person-centered counselling, you're in control of the session. You're in control of what's spoken about, and it's entirely up to you what you do say. What I can say is the therapist will listen to you, and having somebody listen to you is really powerful. But like I say, it's not necessarily going to be an easy journey. But if you get through it and you stick with it, and you turn up each week and you engage with the therapist, it's there is light, there is possible light at the end of the tunnel. It's certainly, you know, I've got a lot personally to thank counselling, and I do with CBT, which is CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, is completely different. It's kind of like on the flip side of person-centred counselling, whereas you've got with person-centred counselling, the counsellor doesn't kind of dictate what you say, or you with counselling person, you know, you bring the topic to it's up to you what you talk about, and the counsellor will listen. Whereas CBT is kind of it's more of a structured type of therapy, but again very effective. It really is. It's I think it was formed by a guy called Albert Ellis, and Aaron Beck, I think, were the pioneers of, you know, they were the pioneers of cognitive behavioural therapy, as Carl Rogers was the pioneer of person-centred counselling. But with CBT, there's more of a structured it's more of a structured therapy. So basically, whatever it is, say if it's you suffer with anxiety, again, it's a really good therapy. A challenging therapy. It certainly is challenging, as is person-centred counselling, because anything where you're gonna where there's discomfort is challenging. But with CBT, they will, you know, you will get an assessment, and then they'll conceptualise what's gone on, and they will formulate some kind of treatment for you, which is usually a structured thing week to week. You know, they ask, you get asked more questions with CBT. You will be given homework to do, but the homework is basically, it's evidence for you to see improvements as you go along week to week. There's written evidence there for you to, you know, it's there for you to see. It involves things like cognitive restructuring, so there's a lot of scale ratings that you do. So for example, they will ask you, say if you were scared of spiders, for example, they may do some goal setting and cognitive restructuring around that. So it may start with maybe pictures of spiders and how do you feel, and then they'll rate that 1 to 10, how do you feel, and then say if it's, you know, at the beginning of therapy, your, say, fear of spiders is 10 plus, you know, it's off the scale or something, but by the end of therapy, if therapy has worked for you, that could well easily be down to 3, 2 or 1 or something. You know, your fear hopefully will be gradually reduced by using by cognitive restructure and goal setting each week. You know, so the therapist might say to you, maybe look at some pictures on YouTube or on the internet or something, and then once you've then come back and you report to the therapist how that felt, and then you'll rate you will rate your anxiousness 1 to 10, and you know, the first time you do it, it might be, you know, you might be 8, 9 or something, you know, and then the second time you do it, it may drop a little bit, and then what the therapist will do to you, will talk to you about, you know, what is the actual evidence of something happening regarding spiders. What's the evidence to show that spiders are dangerous, you know, especially in the UK anyway, and they will get you to think differently about spiders. For example, I'm just using spiders as an example. My anxiety was based on something slightly different, but I'm just giving this as an example, and that's just to explain what kind of things they do. So once they start talking about what may be, you know, bothering you, and then they will ask you to find, you know, so they look at how spiders say in the UK, what's the actual evidence of them being dangerous. You know, obviously it's the feel of them and the look of them as well, but first of all, what is the evidence to show that they are really dangerous? And there probably isn't any. So what they tend to do is then they get you, that's kind of like cognitive restructuring in a way. It's getting you to think about this a little bit different. And then, like I say, they'll use graded exposure where they'll maybe, like I say, send you home to maybe look at pictures of a spider, then rate how you was, and then maybe do it again, and then gradually they may get you to say, right, watch videos on YouTube or something with a spider on there, you know, and once they get used to you doing that, they may then say, let's go to the pet shop or something, and the therapist may go with you to a pet shop and look at spiders, and eventually, I mean, you may be, somebody may get to hold a spider, and then at the end of the day you get asked again how you're feeling, and by the end of therapy, what was a 10, even looking at a spider, maybe drop, like I said before, drop down to 3, 2 or 1 even, or you know, there's no fear at all. And for me personally, I found it quite challenging, CBT. The first time I had CBT, I didn't like it. I think I was in too early alcohol recovery at the time. It was all to do with anxiety and in social situations and things like that. I didn't like the homework. I didn't engage with it at all. You know, I thought it was absolutely crap. I didn't like it. But fast forward a few years, I got, when I was, you know, well out of alcohol services, and you know, been sober for 6, 7, 8 years or something. 6, 7, 8 years, yeah. I was referred again for CBT, but this time I approached CBT with an open mind. I thought, right, I maybe the first time round, a bit too early alcohol recovery, let's maybe really get engaged with this and take it on board. And obviously I'd matured a little bit as well. I think the homework thing, I did, certainly the homework the first time round, I didn't like, but the second, like I say, when I got referred the second time, it was initially for about 8 sessions or something. And it was, it was based around like social anxiety, some depression also, and it was a bit like I spoke about with the spider. You know, I had to gradually. I started off by, you know, I had the assessment, and the therapist was a fantastic therapist. Went away and conceptualised and formalised the therapy, the treatment for myself. Which again, you know, it was all structured. I got homework every week, and I did the homework this time, and did the graded exposure, and you know, that was quite entertaining. I had to start doing things like, first of all, I had to start, you know, going into small shops, because I had a thing with big shops as well. I was a bit feared of them. I didn't like being around a lot of people. So I started off with small shops, then I ended up, you know, going into big stores like Tesco, Asda or Primark, especially Primark I live, it's huge. And shopping centres themselves, the malls. So I built it up slowly each week, to the point where it doesn't really bother me now, unless I have kind of a relapse with the borderline personality disorder. That's something else. I kind of know what it is. But as far as the CBT in general, I would say is a good therapy. It has helped. I think it's, even though in previous videos I've spoke about, I had a relapse with symptoms last October, I think it was, when I had to come out of university. I still somehow got help. I was able to get help, and obviously I was given different medication in the form of sertraline, and that helped. And I still use the CBT skills now in situations, so I have benefited from CBT. The skills, the idea of CBT is so you can come away, and the idea is to take those is to teach you to be your own therapist. That's their goal, really. And obviously the CBT is very evidence-based practice, hence with the homework and their rating scales and stuff and things like that. It's all there, as evidence for yourself, and obviously evidence for funding also, and you know, to show that, you know, that kind of therapy works. But I had to do, you know, I had to get on buses and stuff, crowded buses, go on buses at and, you know, on busy times. And I had to, the idea for me, because I never liked attention onto myself, I didn't like having people looking at me and things like that. It was kind of, I struggled with it, sometimes still do, but I've got better of late. I think it's down to the borderline personality disorder. But I decided to go go into, like, say, Primark and do something silly in there, you know, to draw attention to myself. It was basically to show that if the way I looked at things at the time was, I would think people are judging me, and maybe in a negative way. So when I had to go into a shop and do, I can't remember, it wasn't how to get out, say I went into Tesco and knocked a load of, he told me to knock, there was a big pyramid of cornflakes stacked up or something, they must have been on offer, and he said, go knock them down, because obviously that would draw attention to yourself, and it was to show me that people would probably help more than maybe laugh at you or call you something, you know, because that's what's I'd been used to for years. So automatically I think everything is negative, and it wasn't. People, you know, the staff at the time was, you know, asked if I was all right, you know, and I mean, it was only bunches of big pyramid full of cornflakes or something like that. So obviously it was okay, but the first, what it showed me was that it's not necessarily going to be negative when you draw attention to yourself. It was a case of showing me that people actually will help, and people are nice people. I mean, for me, you know, one of the reasons I have borderline personality disorder and anxiety is because of a lot of negative stuff from childhood and early adulthood, and then obviously you carry that on with you, and you become anxious everywhere until you're completely disabled with it. So no, I would certainly say, if anybody's going for CBT, give it a go. Give it a go, absolutely. It's a game. You've got to put the work in. You really do have to put the work in with CBT, and it doesn't necessarily work the first time or second time. Maybe I think that's what I would say with any therapy. If it doesn't work the first time, it's certainly worth giving something a second shot, because I'm glad I did with the CBT, because, you know, even though I had a relapse with my mental health last October, I'd got 3-4 years or so where I was functioning a lot better, and I'm functioning again. The relapse didn't last that long, so I still think that's down to CBT. I mean, at the time also, when I was at university, as people, if the people out there studied, it's bloody stressful anyway. So maybe that was contributed, but no, certainly with CBT, person-centered counselling, I'd give it a go. Absolutely give it a go, but you have to be willing. You've got to be willing. You've got to understand it's going to be difficult, because the reason you're there is because of some kind of difficulty anyway. And certainly counselling, the person-centered side, you could well be talking about things that are, you know, really heavy and traumatic, so you've got to go over it again, but it is kind of worth it once you have gone through it, and it kind of helps you, person-centered kind of helps you to understand maybe a little bit, to help you go forward. And that's what therapy is all about, is to help you go forward, you know, go forward with your life. Like I say, with the CBT, it's another great therapy. Aaron Beck, he's probably worth reading up on and looking at videos on YouTube. Person-centered counselling, again, was Carl Rogers's. He was the guy who pioneered that. He believes it's the here and now we need to talk about and things, you know. And we see with CBT, it's a case of how things are affecting you now. What's causing your problem now. They don't tend to trace too much back, whereas counselling may go back a bit. It's up to you that. the counselling, but CBT is like here and now, what's affecting, what's happening now, why are you anxious now, what's causing it, and it's a case of, like I say, they work through it, and it's structured weekly. Like I say, do the homework, and you start to see things with the homework yourself. You can see your progress, and once you see progress, then you start thinking differently, and that is the idea behind it. But I also had some experience of CAT as well, which is slightly different. It's cognitive analytic therapy, and that's a case of looking. That's more in depth. It goes. That looks at how, relationships and patterns and stuff like that in your relationships, and it's more, yeah, it's to help you understand, or maybe understand things that have happened in your past, and they do again go, they will delve quite deep, you will go, certainly in my case anyway, you have to go really far back, and things may be, again, difficult to talk about, but they kind of help you try to make sense of if there's been multiple things maybe it's happened, there may be a pattern to it that you don't realise, and they kind of get you to look at that, and they help you understand that this may be, there's something going on in your relationships with people as well. So I, in my case, I tell you, there was relationships with other family members and school and things, and it was kind of with the CAT. I had to do something which was called the two chair therapy, or empty chair therapy they call it. And it's where you basically there was an empty chair in front of me, and I had to imagine, or you could put a picture there of somebody you need to talk to, that, whatever, it could be anything. But for me, there was a couple of people that they're deceased now, so I had to imagine they was there and talk to this empty chair. But it's a strange thing to do, but it's a very powerful thing to do as well. It's really good, and your therapist sits kind of to one side, and the therapist may prompt, what would that person have said to you, or things like that. Then, and as you do that, the week after you may do the same again, but you may go and sit in the empty chair and role play that person. It's kind of strange, but it is powerful. It is good. It's I had things I needed to say to a couple of people that they're no longer here, so there's no way of me doing it, but that was the next best thing. So I'd say again, with CAT, if you're offered CAT, give it a go. I think the thing is, what I'm trying to say is, with any therapy, it's not an easy ride. It's not an easy journey, but if you're willing to make the effort and maybe stick to it, and be willing to, and strong enough to, don't forget, because at the end of the day, you don't want to go to any more harm than you need be. I personally think maybe approach therapy with an open mind. Give it a go. You're not forced into it, I don't think, well, there may be circumstances, I don't know, where people may be coerced into it, I don't know, maybe through courts or something, I don't know. But, generally speaking, you're not forced into doing it, but you do what's comfortable. But it is worthwhile. I mean, if it weren't, I wouldn't have been able to talk into a camera like my phone camera for, half an hour now. I've waffled on. I doubt anybody will get from 1 minute to 29 minutes or whatever it is now, but I wouldn't have been able to do that anyway. I think it's purely down to CBT years ago that's helped me do things. I know I have setbacks and things, but I do always seem to get up. Like I say, the point of the video was really is maybe to share a little bit about my journey, and maybe just offer some comfort. If anybody's out there who's been offered therapy and don't know what to expect, it can be scary, and it is scary, and especially if you've never had any experience of therapy, before, but when you go to therapy, you're not forced to say anything. You don't have to. Even with CBT, they won't force you to say anything. There's just CBT is more structured than counselling, and there's certainly counsellors. You could go to a counsellor and sit there and say nothing for an hour, and that'd be it. They won't, they don't tell you what to say at all. But what you do say, they listen to, and sometimes. Certainly in my case, if a lot of your life you've never been listened to, certainly in my early life I wasn't, when somebody all of a sudden does, that is very powerful in itself, as well as the prolonged therapy, the continuation of therapy. But anyway, like I say, to sum up, if you're offered therapy, yes, it could be, can be scary, but you're generally in safe hands, and I would personally give it a try. Like I say, it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's not. People, there's people out there who flatly don't, they don't like therapy, and it doesn't work for every single person. I think I've got benefits from it. I would give it a go. Give it a try if you need to, definitely give it a go. Anyway, that's me. Thanks very much for listening. If you have listened this far, well done if you have, because I'm not sure I could go back and listen to myself again. Anyway, thanks for now. Anyway, please subscribe, leave comments, maybe, and I'll certainly answer your questions the best I can, and maybe leave some ideas what I could maybe talk about. Anyway, thanks very much. Bye bye for now.